Hello everybody, my name is Bill and this is Six Rounds Studio. Today what I have is a special story and one that I hope you find interesting. Several months ago I did a story on this custom Mauser that my dad and my uncle built, and I will put links both in the description and in the end cards at the end of the video. When I did that video, I promised you that I would do a bigger story about this rifle, as well as some of the other rifles that my dad and my uncle and myself included have built for customers over the years. So today I want to do that video for you. This video is going to be a story about my dad and my uncle and the legacy that they created for themselves building these custom rifles. Let's get started. Now, my dad started Roes in 1962, and I think he always wanted to be a custom rifle maker, but there wasn't the ability to make a living or build a business around that, especially at that time. So he ended up creating Roes Gun Shop, which is a retail store. Now that retail store initially was in the basement of my parents' house. So I was a child, I was a kid, and the customers would literally walk down the cellar stairs. And my mother used to hang laundry in the cellar, so they would have to wind their way through all the laundry that was hanging in the on the line in the basement. And in the back side or the back corner of the cellar, there were two sections. Dad had created a gunsmithing area, and then he also created a retail store in a room that he created in the back. He asked his brother if he'd come in and join the business, which my uncle did. And they ended up running that business until they both passed away within the last two to 5 years before I took it over and started running it. So they both were responsible for building these rifles and doing these customs. Now, I don't only want to talk about this rifle because I put some feelers out and I was able to get some rifles back from customers that we did this custom work for. So I want to kind of go through the entire legacy, talk about how the boys got started in this. I also want to talk a little bit about my involvement and how I got involved in doing this custom work with the boys. It was almost by accident as opposed to plan. So I'd like to tell that story a little bit too. Now, as I do this, as I go through this, we'll take some photographs and I'll post some photographs, some of the details of these different rifles, and show you some of the work that we all used to do. Now, as much as I wish I could, there's no way I could ever recover all of the rifles and handguns that the boys have customized or converted over the last 55, 60 years. The boys did a lot of restoration work. They did a lot of refinishing work as well as custom. And there's never a time that I remember that there wasn't a gun in the rack that somebody had asked to do a restoration on or a refinish on. And this Winchester 73 is one of them. It's a beautiful, beautiful rifle. The boys did their usual tremendous job. I've mentioned in many of my videos about methodologies, and some of the things to watch for. And of course, I've learned a lot of that from my dad and my uncle. So they did this restoration, and I'll show you some close-ups here in a minute. This rifle was made in 1888, and what it looked like before they started, I have no idea. I do know that they would often discourage people from doing renovations or restorations. I do the same thing. If a gun looks to be in really good collectible condition, we generally encourage folks to leave it alone. So I don't know what this looked like, but I also know that when they do take on the restoration, their obligation is to the customer. So there are some things that they did on this rifle that I don't fully understand, but I don't have to, because again, the usual excellent quality work that the boys did. Let me take some close-ups for you so you get an idea what this rifle looks like. Before I put this one away, I thought it'd be interesting to share with you. I managed to get the repair tag for this, or the control tag for this, and the instructions were basically redo gun complete. And this was done in 1991. This was done a long, long time ago. And what I think is really kind of interesting is there's prices on the back of this. So just to put perspective to how much something cost today as compared to all those years ago, they charge by the job, by the process. So they've charged for the reblue. Now the reblue has to include all the polishing. So they only detailed it as reblue. But again, all the polishing, all the reblue, all of that was part of that price. So they charged this customer $125 to do the polish and reblue. Refinish the stock. So they did a complete strip and refinish on the gun stock, and they charged the customer $50 for that. $175 total. Today, that price won't even get you the stock stripped. I mean, it's literally time. The cost of doing business has gone up so high that from 175, and because I don't know what this gun looked like when it started, I couldn't even estimate what the restoration cost would be on something like this. All right, let's go on to the next gun. I want to go back to this Persian Mauser. There has never been a time that I can remember that this rifle wasn't on display for show and tell for the boys. This was something that they would always bring out when people started inquiring or asking about doing custom work. So this was built by roadies, and I don't think they ever built it for anybody. They just built it as a example of the work that they did. This thing is probably circa late 60s through late 70s, somewhere in that area, I'm guessing. This is very typical of the styling that everybody was doing during the 60s. It has this very square profile here. Dad rounded this over a little bit, so it's not as flat and square as some of the 60s era customs were. Excuse me. Has this flared pistol grip with the big wide or broad cap on it. Some of the common details that even today I still do is putting this relief in around the bolt release. Beautiful, beautiful detail. Same thing in here, the undercut and the relief in the cheek piece. The raised comb, the Monte Carlo comb. The scope is a old Weaver scope. Short scope. I don't know what the power is on this. Yes, I do. It is 1.5 to 3. So it's a very low power scope. Great for hunting or shooting in compact brush kind of areas where you're not having to get out in those long distances. Dad really shortened this barrel. This is the original Mauser barrel. This is an 8mm. So Dad simply recontoured it, shortened it, and pretty much it's intact. This thing is small, it's dainty, it's light, and I told you the story back in that early video on this, that this 8mm and this light rifle hurts. It just plain hurts. Dad was doing, we still do it. Dad was doing a lot of jeweling, and the amount of jeweling that he did was sort of dependent on the customer's desire, customer's want. There's several ways to jewel, or there's several overlaps, and every overlap, the more overlaps, the more time, the more cost. I think you can understand all of that. Anyway, this is just as beautifully jeweled. My dad built his own jeweling fixture, and I actually donated that to one of the customers whose guns I have here for this video. I have my own jeweling jig that I purchased, and then like I said, my dad's, I donated it to one of the customers. The bottom, everything on the bottom was customized. So The typical broad trigger guard that you get from a military Mauser, Dad thinned that all down, and that's exactly what you should do if you're going to customize one of these old military rifles. Same thing in the floor plate. He rounded it over, tapered it. Really, really beautiful. One of the striking features is the butt pad on this. So Dad inletted it. This is a I forget what the hell they call this, a widow's peak, or it's pointed on the top of the comb, where it's inlet into the wood on the top of the comb. You know, you look at this stuff and you look for fit and finish. You look for line to line fits, and Dad or Henry, I'm not sure which one did the stock. It's too late for me to ask them. They did an excellent job. It's like it grew out of the wood, which is really beautiful. Got the old ebony tip. I cannot tell if this is wood or if it's plastic. Don't know. It's looking, well, it could be wood. Could be wood. The white line spacers, if you're old enough, you remember white line spacers, again, right out of the 60s and 70s. Now this one, I've already shown you some close-ups back at the beginning of the video. I'll take a few more before we let this one go. This, I don't know what it is. Most of the markings have been removed. There are a few. It could be a 93, it could be a 95. I'm not entirely sure. Again, the scope is over the crest on the top, so without taking it off, I can't tell this. And again, I don't own this rifle. This is one that we made for a customer. Now, when he came in the shop, what he asked my dad and my uncle to do was to build him a hunting rifle. And this rifle was chambered, or rebarreled and chambered in 45-70. This thing has a huge hole in the end of the muzzle. It is a big caliber. I had nothing to do with the metal work at all. That was all done by Dad and Uncle. But I was handed this and asked if I would do the stock work on it, which I did. This is probably one of my favorites. It is beautiful. It is stunning. So we built this rifle, or the boys built the rifle. I built the gun stock. And I tried to put in a lot of style lines in this because the wood deserved it. This is Circassian walnut with its blonde color and the black stripes. It is a beautiful, beautiful gun stock and a beautiful rifle. It is a beast. It weighs a lot. It's got this little Weaver scope on it, this older Weaver, and it's the same 1.5 to 3, so it's a low power scope so that it can be used in brush and compact areas. We spent a couple of years on this, if I recall. We worked on it part-time. I worked on it part-time. And when all the parts came together, we called the owner up. He's one of our regular customers. He still comes in. He still buys lots of stuff from us. We've actually done more than one custom for him. He also wanted not a Winchester, but a Marlin 336 rebuilt. So we did that for him. I built completely custom stocks for it. Made kind of an art stock out of it. And if I'd thought of it, I would have asked the customer to bring that gun in as well. So we've done a lot of work for him. Fantastic individual, fantastic man, real gun enthusiast. This was all, we had this checkered. There's no grip cap on it. He wanted it plain, so we gave it to him that way. Thinned all of the metal down. My dad and my uncle did all the metal work, all the machining, all the rebarreling, all of that was done by them, installing this barrel band over the barrel. Everything was designed to be a hunting rifle. The owner wanted this to be done in satin black, so we bead blasted this and had it blued. And because it's bead blasted, you don't get that shine, you don't get that gloss back. Even the Weaver scope has a bead blasted finish. Before we go on to the last rifle, I want to tell you a story about the customer when he picked this thing up. Now, Rod had paid a lot of money for this rifle over the 2 years that it took us to build it. And because I was directly involved in it, when Rod came in to pick it up, I told my dad that I'd like to be there so that I could sort of be a part of that presentation. So Dad calls me and I show up down to the retail store or retail shop. And we waited for Rod to come in. Rod comes in and we hand him the rifle. And of course, I'm sort of sitting there, thinking that, God, this is beautiful, this is stunning, he's going to love this thing. And we don't get the reaction I was expecting. I'm thinking he's going to be all smiles and just joyous. And he looks the rifle over from beginning to end. And I'm waiting for the reaction, and finally he looks up from the rifle and he says, "Damn you guys." I was devastated. I'm thinking, what the hell did we do wrong? And my dad says, "Rod, what's wrong?" And Rod answered, he said, "I asked you guys to build me a hunting rifle." Dad said, "We did." He goes, No, he says, "You didn't build me a hunting rifle." He says, "You built me a work of art." He says, "I don't dare to shoot this thing." And to this day, 20 some odd years later, this gun has never been fired or shot or sighted in by Rod. This gun sits in his cabinet on display as a piece of art. High praise, and it's a high reward. Let's go look at the last one. Okay, so let's talk about this last one. This is a Mauser Model 88. This is a beautiful little rifle. It's really small, it's really compact. This again was brought in by one of our regular customers. So this goes back, I think, about 15 or 18 years. I'm trying to remember because I was involved with this one as well. Now, this came in and they did several things to it. They removed the shroud. They also polished and blued it, jeweled the bolt. The jeweling on this thing is really, really stunning. My dad was just really good at it. The guy that owns this is the guy who we gifted the jeweling fixture to, which Dad used to jewel this bolt. This thing came with the spoon bolt handle. They didn't add it. This is original to the rifle. It's even got the right date codes on it, or right serial number. The flip-up sight is original to the gun as well. Again, nice job on this. The gun stock is how I came to be involved with this. I was down the shop one day, and my dad says to me, he says, "Billy," he says, "I don't know how to make the schnabel." And I go, "Okay." He says, "I keep trying." He says, but he says, "It doesn't seem to come out right." He says, "I can't get the shape." He was telling me, he says, "I can't see it in my head." And he says, "And if I can't see it in my head, I can't create it in the wood." So he figured that before he took away too much of the wood, he ought to get some help. So he asked me if I would do it. Well, now I'd never done a schnabel before either. I see them, I knew what they were. I kind of had a good sense of what they were supposed to look like. So I looked at a bunch of examples of schnabels and sort of began to just chip away at the wood, pare away with chisels and that kind of thing. And eventually I got it so that it looked like a respectable schnabel. I'm pretty pleased with it. Again, it's my first one, so TC owns the first schnabel that I've ever done. And at the end of it, my dad hands me the rest of the gun stock, and he says, "Here," he says, "you might as well finish fitting it up." So I did all the reliefs around the panel. The panel was already there, but again, I sharpened up the lines and sort of made them blend, and did the same thing with the cheek piece. This is not a Monte Carlo, but it does have a raised cheek piece. So I did the same thing. I undercut it and did the relief on it. TC did not want a grip cap, so this is just a rounded grip to it. This again is a really stunning rifle, and it's my dad's, it's my uncle's. They did the work, and I just finished the gun stock on it. It's got a really nice, again, the Widow Peak kind of butt plate on it, where it's inletted into the top of the comb. That's really nice, well done. Looks good. TC again has never shot this. I don't know what it is about the rifles we build, but the guys never take them and shoot them. TC has told me that he's been offered thousands of dollars for this rifle. So again, kind of a pride thing that we were able to create a work of art, something that is aesthetically something that attracts more than just the guy that we built it for. So that's all of the custom rifles that I have. I wasn't able to get more. I know there's some more out there. I know there's a lot more out there. I was trying to get this into the record. These are legacies. This is what a legacy looks like. Future plans, more chapters, more episodes talking about roadies and its history and how it all came to be, and how many folks that my dad and my uncle have affected their lives. Since they both passed away, it's been a pleasure representing the family, representing that legacy. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.